Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another Molly Stars reaction, and man, has it been a while since I've watched one of her videos, because it's been a while since she's put out a video, which, if you don't remember, I did a reaction to all 3 parts of Molly Stars' Device Theory, which, my god, that last video still, has it really been 9 months? But yeah, so Molly just released a new video, like at the time of writing as of yesterday, and it is everything about Deltarune's Spamton Sweepstakes Silence update. So I know that the Spamton Sweepstakes has been updated. I also have seen a couple things going over some of the stuff that was updated, but I don't know everything about it. And also something that just occurred to me. Depending on how things are scheduled out, this may or may not be the last video that I record and post before Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 come out. So that's definitely going to be something. Wow. But yeah, I mean, I loved, Molly Star's work from before. Jeez, what is wrong with my eye? On Device Theory, like, super in-depth, absurd, like, really well made. So, I mean, just what I would hope is a simpler video of just her going over, the various updates to the Spamton Sweepstakes. Yeah, I can dig that. Yeah, might as well get this thing started. So yeah, of course, as always, original videos linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video link to my Let's Play of the day. And if you like this video or any other video that I make, I'd very much appreciate it if you gave the video a like and subscribe to my channel, because my main goal for this year is to hopefully hit 5,000 subscribers, and at the current rate I'm going, that is totally doable thanks to every single one of you that think that my channel is worth subscribing to. Yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Did you miss me?
Yes!
It seems we're back to Deltarune, slightly ahead of the schedule, no? We have things to discuss in this short period between now and June 4th. Something's happened recently to Deltarune.com. Confused? Feeling out of the loop? Why, let me catch you up then.
Alright, lay it on me, man.
As you should know by now, in April, we finally got a trailer for the paid release of the Deltarune Chapters 1 through 4 game, revealed at the Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 2 Entertainment System. With it, the website for Deltarune got somewhat overhauled to accompany the announcement, including a new countdown for June 5th, which appeared to be when the game would finally release. However, people clocked that this countdown had a mismatch between the English and Japanese versions. Specifically, the Japanese one was ahead of the English one by 13 hours, meaning that there was a chance the game could come out earlier in Japan and thus make leaks and spoilers completely insufferable.
Oh, God,
in response to some of this confusion, Toby made a post on Blue Sky later in the month saying that he'll release another newsletter soon to discuss some things. Primarily the countdown mismatch and specifics on release time. Which brings us to May 8th.
Where's this footage from?
I was away from home and went to see one of my partners and some friends of ours to go to Furry Week in Atlanta.
Oh, this is Molly Stars footage. Okay, I was wondering, it's like, what does this have to do with anything?
First FurryCon. I had heard that there would be some more news about Deltarune that night, but I figured I could just get home after all the busy work of registration and getting familiarized with being in a FurryCon for the first time, and take my time learning the news on my own. And a newsletter we certainly did get, closer to midnight EST. We got clarification on the release time of the game, that for Switch 2 it would release locally alongside it in each region. But for every other platform, well, it would release at midnight in Japan. Meaning, for at least where I was, the game would release at 11 AM on June 4th. Fucking morning people.
Ironically, that's going to really suck for me, though, because, I wake up at 5, usually, so that's going to be, 6 hours of just pain waiting for the game to become available to buy, and honestly, I'm not going to be surprised if on the day it is released, if Steam doesn't have some technical difficulties when, you actually want to download the game.
But with that, we got a peek at the trophies that the PlayStation versions of the game will have, and a surprising development related to the Spamton Sweepstakes of all things. If you recall, the Spamton Sweepstakes were a charity event hosted in September 2022. As each goal of the charity was hit, more Spamton-themed items would be unlocked at a special page on Deltarune.com. We would also get a Spamton Q&A, a few special items that would be auctioned, and all of the other items unlocked would be randomly given away to some of the people who donated at the end of the event for its finale video. The Spamton Value Network, a blindsiding crossover between RTVS and Toby Fox. But this is relevant because the Spamton Value Network actually had two endings we could have gotten, the ending being determined by whether people donated more for freedom or silence for Spamton at the end of the sweepstakes. We got the freedom ending in 2022, and when the newsletter started, we were promised to have some more behind-the-scenes peeks at the production, as well as a look at the silence ending in the near future. Which, for all of 2023 and 2024, we did not get whatsoever, aside from the Spamton Love Network special for the Valentine's Day newsletter. But in this very one, on May 8th, we would finally get the silence ending for the Spamton sweepstakes, with an accompanying altered layout for the sweepstakes page, showing everything turned to gray, all item descriptions now empty, and the music only playing a version of Dial Tone, Spamton's shop theme. And much like Toby implied, the silence ending itself really isn't anything too special compared to the freedom one, and the page layout being so barren all seems to track.
That's the right word to use.
It's eerie, but nothing new, right? Well, for the most part, nothing new. After all, I'm leaving something out, aren't I? Because the most important part of the sweepstakes from a lore perspective wasn't the event itself, but rather the fact that Toby and company went the extra mile and added some hidden pages, which would be revealed as more items were during the event. These pages consisting of several blog posts from Noelle, mentions of deaths, teasers for mainly Chapter 3, and quite a bit more than that. I even covered these pages in depth in part 2 of my series on Deltarune in a special section dedicated to the sweepstakes because of how much there was to unpack. At the time of the sweepstakes, up to 26 hidden pages were found, not counting the main page and the credits page. And this newsletter that we just got even makes a point of telling us to take a look around, for old time's sake, Toby says. And really, at first glance, nothing seems out of the ordinary. Checking nearly every page that's already on the sweepstakes, there's nothing new. The TV is still off. Even the bottom of the silence page, which just says in big text, "What's next?" just takes us to Ramb. This is all old news to us, right? There's no way Toby would just last minute add a bunch of new pages to the But, of course, as you can tell, I was wrong. We got blindsided. Again. 14 times over.
Honestly, I remember looking over... I literally did a video looking over the newsletter and reacting to the silence ending. And honestly, I did not look over it, like, at all, really. Like, I looked over, I looked at the video, looked over the gray page. I did not discover any of this stuff, and I've only seen, like, a small portion of it from, like, what's been shown in other people's videos. Like, again, you know, the page with all the different size numbers, and with some of them hidden that you have to, like, highlight to make them visible, I should say. And, God, honestly, again, like, just... It's the fact that we're so close to getting more answers. That's what makes this unbearable.
This motherfucker.
Oh god, yeah. That's a one way of describing Toby Fox.
Hello again, everyone, and I hope you're all doing well. This is intended to be a short video by my standards. Quite a bit has happened in just the short time I was away from home, and while I was expecting to wait until Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 released before getting to make a proper video on it again, the recent addition of pages to the sweepstakes portion of the website has thrown a pleasant wrench into those plans. I spent basically the whole night of its release going through the pages and assessing what to do with them. So, to start talking about this, let me let you in a bit on what I intended to do before all of this happened. I wanted to initially start the upcoming video on the next chapters by covering the build-up to release that we've been experiencing since the sweepstakes. The newsletters, the secret letter we got for V-Day in 2024, the LTS playtest builds, what have you. And I was expecting initially to wait until then to also include the new sweepstakes pages in that discussion. But as I grew to learn, and as I saw all the new pages for myself, it's become clear that doing so would extend that introduction to the video on 3 and 4 well beyond anything I'd like for it to when I just want to talk about the damn game when it's out. And not only that, but it would also make the video awfully redundant, as you'll see that most, if not all of the new pages are effectively teasers for things that we're going to have the full context for in only a matter of weeks at most from when this video goes live.
Weeks. Right. Yeah, weeks. Got some real good timing there, Molly, don't ya?
And because this is so short notice and I barely have much time to really think of how to do this ideally, I'm going to try to keep this a bit rough but to the point. This is about as on the ground as this channel has ever been with covering something, and I may as well lean into that rather than deliberate too much on what the best way to start this conversation is. The newsletter and silence update to the sweepstakes have provided us with 14 additional new pages to look at, bringing it to a total of 40 hidden pages. And because these are mostly teasers for things we will see in the very near future, I decided the best call would be to make a video covering just these pages by themselves, separately from a proper analysis of the upcoming chapters, and just refer back to it in the future for when the real deal is finally here for us to dig into. And even then, that's not to say I won't be talking about them at all in that video, because, oh boy, the loose ends and you had to be there moments are something else this time.
I was not there, unfortunately.
I am so pleasantly surprised to actually see an update to this. I already voiced how much I love the sweepstakes back in part 2 of Deltarune and the Fourth Wall, but I was genuinely not expecting to actually have more to cover with regards to this.
Honestly, like, it really makes me think, like, I really hope there is, you know, another sweepstakes-like charity event or something like that. Because, like, imagine if they actually started doing them, like, on sort of themed after each secret boss. So we had the Spamton one. Maybe in the future we might see a Jevil-themed one, or one based on, like, other, like, the future secret bosses as well. Like, that could be really fun. Or maybe just have a sequel to the Spamton sweepstakes. Who knows? I mean, obviously, I don't think people would be, you know, angry or upset about that.
Let alone so close to the game's release. If you are new to my channel, I would recommend you check out what I had to say about the sweepstakes initially in that section of the video if you want a full idea of what I covered there. But this video is overall intended for people who already have a pretty decent idea of who I am. There's no time for thorough introductions. I want this to feel more casual, but still comprehensive. We will
sorry, just the perspective on, you know, Molly's hand there is kind of threw me off there for a second.
Have the answers to all of this chaos very soon, so let's try to keep it simple-ish this time. I'm just here for the ride. If you're watching this, you probably have a good idea of what happened, and if not, I'd recommend you take a good look through the site yourself to have your own fun little experience with it. After all, it's not going to be long before we enter what is essentially an entirely new era for talking about this game. So,
again, like, I've talked about it before, how, like, up until this point, the game has essentially existed in, you know, a pre-release version. We've only ever really had to work with a literal demo of the game. At this point, in 3 days' time, the actual game itself will be fully released, and we'll have, at the very least, double the amount of content we currently have to work with when trying to figure out stuff.
If nothing else, I want this video to be a last hurrah for Deltarune theorizing in a pre-chapters 3 and 4 world, and to keep a good record of especially the more bizarre developments from these new pages, which honestly were the main fuel for this video being a thing, as I fear that some of this may end up getting lost rather easily in the noise of hype for the new chapters, and I want there to be some video comprehensively going over exactly what happened, when it happened, and what it might mean, if anything. The archivist in me just can't help it. So, let's not waste any more time. We have a lot of very intriguing and surprising tidbits to look at, some new questions to ask that, once again, I never thought to ask before now, and I can already feel the dark worms are back and the excitement of the new chapters consuming me entirely. There may not be much I can give in the way of answers for you, but God, I have so much to say. What little it gives for thought is sure as hell substantial. Let's investigate the new pages together, shall we? All 14 of them, one at a time. Or, as I will call it, the Deltarune Spamton Sweepstakes Silence Update. What exactly has this game had in store for us that it had to give us a peek so close to release?
Honestly, like, I wouldn't be surprised if none of this was even, like, necessary with the actual game coming up. All of this, I could very easily see this as all being just, like, basically it's throwing barbecue lighter fluid on the fire just to get things roaring again right before the game's release comes.
Get comfy. And without further ado, here is what we've learned, or are about to learn, from the new sweepstakes pages on Deltarune.com. And I think the best place to start would be to go over the things that have changed with the pages that were already there. So, for the very most part, none of the existing pages from 2022 really had any major changes made to them. The most obvious one we could go over would be the main sweepstakes page, which before used to have a link at the bottom that read, "Take me back home please," which would lead you back to the index page of Deltarune.com. But now, the text has been changed to, "What's next?" taking you to one of the new pages. As mentioned previously too, the top of the page now has a link that takes you to the silence version of the sweepstakes page, which I already discussed. As I mentioned earlier, kind of surprisingly, the TV page has not changed whatsoever. Which is funny, because almost everyone seemed to be in agreement that the TV would turn on here at some point or something. Like, if any page was gonna change, it'd be this one, right? I honestly kind of call bullshit on this page not changing at all, but oh well, we'll see if that changes while I'm working on this video or something.
Honestly, like, how much you want to bet that it actually did change, but the only thing that actually changed was, like, the picture, but it's been changed by, like, 1 pixel, and, like, nobody's actually been able to tell yet.
As for the hidden pages that did change though, Code now has an additional hyperlink on the word clues, which now takes you to the egg page. And Ramb and Egg both have new links in them as well that each lead to a few of the new pages that were added. And for the old pages at least, that's all there really is to say. Which leaves us, of course, with looking through what's been added. And much like what I did when it came to analyzing the old pages, I decided I would try to group all these pages together into a few sections of their own, for the sake of convenience. As I stated before, we have 14 new pages, not counting the silence version of the sweepstakes page. We will be going through all of them, but I'm splitting these pages into 2-ish groups, or branches. One of them is what's mainly accessible through the new links on Code and Egg, and the other one is what's accessible through either Ramb or the main sweepstakes page.
So they're categorized as rare cats or what's next? Okay, interesting.
Although, for reasons you'll see later, that one kind of also splits into its own fork in the road.
Oh, of course.
So with these pages split into their appropriate categories, I suppose we should start with the same place we started the first time. Code. As I said earlier, Code is one of the few older pages that underwent some changes. For one thing, it being the trailhead, it now has been updated to say that Noelle found about 40 pages so far, where it previously said 26. But more importantly, a new link has been added, as the word clues now leads us to the Egg page. Egg doesn't seem to have had any severe changes made to it either, aside from one. This page also contains a new link aside from taking you back to Code, as the phrase Secret Cats now contains a hyperlink to our first page worth looking at in this update. A new, and for this video, the only new blog post from Noelle to start off this branch. Rain. This post, like Egg, is another one with the dark body class applied to it. It starts with Noelle talking about a rain day that she had where it rained so hard that it led to her mom canceling school for the day. Because of it, her friend, who we can easily infer to be Caddy in this post, would come over without an umbrella, so she had to dry Caddy off for a while. She changes topics here, sort of, to talk about how she would really enjoy playing Cat Pedders on rainy days, and particularly the minigames in Cat Pedders, which she notes as being rather absurd, with names such as Jongler, which I better fucking see in Chapter 4, so help me. But she specifically—
Pluie from Jongler. Oh god. You know, in a few years, when the Deltarune hype, you know, it tamps down, when, you know, hopefully more of the game is released, like, new people are gonna have no idea what any of this is referring to.
Singles out a minigame she used to play a lot that she doesn't remember the name of, but consisted of some kind of endless cave, as she describes, where you can find different rarities of cats to raise your score. Those rarities she even had made a text file guide for way back when, just called b.txt. And here, we can get a bit more of the specifics. An 80% chance for a normal one, a 15% chance for a blue aura one, a 4%—
The aura is— what is that? I don't think that's how you spell aura. It's A-U-R-A? Is that is how you spell aura, right? Yeah.
Aura.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
And chance for a rock and roll one, a 0% chance for an Engelwing one, and then a 0,000% chance for Super Holy Engiwing. We'll want to keep these in mind.
Oh god,
Noelle then
child
says that she
spelling.
could have sworn there were more types, and even one type that actually lowered Noelle's score, which made her die immediately and thus unable to get proof of it. She says at first that no one else seemed to find it, but then walks it back a bit by saying that she has a feeling that someone she knows might have also seen it, but probably wouldn't give a straight answer if asked. We'll come back to that. She then ends the post with a few words about—
Honestly, who could she be talking about there? Because, like, something like that, like, somebody could know, like, who would that be? I mean, doubt it'd be Caddy. Could it potentially be, like, Chris? But she knows Chris, and knows Chris wouldn't really talk about it or something like that? Who knows?
about how the minigames would make a cameo in Cat Pedders the RPG, a game that Chris can find under Asriel's bed in their room, and that it's kind of a ripoff of Dragon Blazers. She then says that if anyone can find proof, that they should try it themselves, and actually ends it by talking more about Caddy misinterpreting Cat Pedders as meaning that Noelle was just going to pet Caddy. And
Yeah.
that's the post itself. It's nothing too out of the ordinary for a weird blog post where Noelle talks about something that only she has found, and it tracks very well with her knack for finding things that no one else has in her favorite games. But with regards to who she says may have also seen that type of cat that lowered her score, I have a sneaking suspicion that she is referring to Chris here. Not for any particular objective reason, aside from maybe the general themes the other branch of the new pages touch on, but overall I just can't imagine who else she's referring to here. I don't know, Birdly, I guess? But
Also, thinking about it, like, a cat that lowered score. Given that recently I've seen a lot of art depicting Friend, you know, that weird face you see in the Spamton section, as a cat, I wonder if that could potentially mean anything.
But Chris seems like someone who would be more in the know about weird glitches and the such. I don't know, could be wrong. But to continue, we can see that in this post, the trail still doesn't end here, as the phrase "try it yourself" is another hyperlink that leads to our next page of this branch. Rare Cats. This appears to be a dancing cat cookie clicker sort of deal. There really doesn't seem to be much more here. The tab header just displays the amount of points you have in this page, and when you click on the cat going across the screen, you gain points before another one appears for you to click on. And you'll notice something about the types of cats you can get in this page. They seem to line up rather well with the rarities that Noelle listed in her post. A normal one that appears most of the time, a cat with a blue aura, a cat that has this flame graphic behind it and plays an electric guitar sound, or Susie's CD Bagel music of all things, and even a cat with angel wings that, when clicked, plays Ralsei's CD Bagel music, and then shows a window that you can click on. And by the way, even the Super Holy Angel Wing one is possible to get in this page, which gives you 3,000 points. Here's footage of that too, since it seems to be especially rare and it gives you that same window sprite like the other angel cat does.
Jeez, okay, yeah, there you go.
Clicking on this window, however, takes us to our next page, being, well, windows. That sure is a lot of them. About 51 of them to be exact. These windows looking
Oh god, can you imagine if there was just 11?
rather familiar to at least the style of what absolutely little we've seen of Chapter 4 from the trailer and promotional material.
Yeah.
And if you can believe it, all of them are clickable. Although, if you were to click on just about any of them, you end up just getting sent to the 404 page.
Of course.
So, what's going on here? Well, to start, unrelated, but we have a pretty familiar header. Aren't you forgetting something? Which we've seen before on the Damn You Tana page back in 2022 when we get to the Ice Palace part of it. The header there changes to this same sentence but in all caps. To get back to the windows though, the key here is to pay attention to the URL names you get when hovering over each one of them. You'll see that they're all actually just different permutations of the same few words. Grow wood forest the where lost, where grow wood the forest lost, etc. The idea is you're trying to find a combination of these words that will form a coherent
Actual sentence.
And there is one that fits what we're looking for after enough searching, which is our next page. Lost where the forest would grow. this page containing
a tree.
A tree. A very new tree to us. The tab header simply reading Roots in all caps. The only thing this header makes me think of is the name of the song that plays in Queen's Basement, Digital Roots, but I'm kind of at a loss there otherwise.
I mean, you look at this and there's a couple of things. I mean, one, the fact that it's a completely different tree than we've ever seen before means obviously this probably has something to do with either Chapter 3 or Chapter 4. And given the fact that the tree has the exact same texture as the jogging tin has a beard picture, this has to do with Chapter 4 in some way. I mean, given that the whole thing led from, Lost Where the Forest Grows or something like that, I can almost imagine, maybe initially, that Lost Where the Forest Grows, that almost sounds like... stay with me here. It almost sounds like something from like a religious text or something, like from a Bible or a quote or something. So given that Chapter 4 is taking place in the church, like, I wonder if, like, you go to church and there's going to be a portion of it where we actually hear, some scripture or some of the Mass and stuff like that. And I wonder if that line specifically is going to be one of the ones we hear, and if that's going to actually affect the Dark World in some way.
This tree just floats up and down, with our only option being to click it. And before we do, I want you to pay attention to this tree a little bit. Does anything look familiar? Because, as it turns out, the pattern that this tree is using, much like the graphic for the dark fountains in the game, is a crop from Image Depth, the background for the Goner Maker, which is extremely intriguing to me. And I would think a little deeper of this, but this also seems to line up a lot with this screenshot from the Steam page.
Literally what I just said!
Beard. It's the same color scheme and also seems to use Image Depth. So, could this just be what we'll see in another room of this sort in the Chapter 4 Dark World? Or maybe it is something more important than that. Whatever the case, the fact that both of these are using the Goner Maker background, something that only the Fountains have been using otherwise, it's hard to believe it isn't significant in some way.
I mean, for all we know, this could signify that Jockington is much more important than we first gave him credit for.
If I wanted to reach, the header being in all caps could be another pointer to that, but who's to say?
Yeah, definitely.
I really don't know. Even the name of the page itself just kind of eludes me and makes it sound like we'll be in another forest, perhaps, but we'll just have to wait and see. It at least implies that Chapter 4's Dark World might be a little special, at least narratively speaking, if Image Depth is being used this often in its assets.
I mean, again, like, Chapters 3 and 4 seem to be special. I mean, we were, like, I can't even remember when we initially were told this, but Toby said in one of the newsletters that Chapter 3 is going to be very much, like, a lot more gimmicky than the other chapters. So maybe as a result, to kind of balance things out, Chapter 4 is going to be a lot more serious than Chapter 3 was, just to balance out narratively or something like that?
Guess it makes sense, given it's sort of the halfway point of the game, arguably.
Yeah,
but
for all we know.
Upon clicking on the tree, we hear this noise. Clicking it a few more times will play this noise again each time, but on the fourth click will take us to the windows again? Ah, but wait. You see, the page before was Windows. This one is just called Window. Singular. We're in a different but identical page. And you can tell because hovering over these windows again, we see a different string being jumbled on each one. This time, all of the letters are scrambled, so we're just trying to find something that is coherent
It's actually a word.
All. And you eventually do, in the form of our next and final page for this branch of the added ones. The Poor Children. Tab header simply reading Therapy. It appears to just be a black screen at first, but when holding left click and dragging your cursor around, you're able to draw white pixels, at least up to a certain amount before it starts erasing itself. There isn't much more to it than that, but eventually you'll start noticing that you're uncovering something beneath the darkness. Uncovering more of it, we can see that this is one of the Scarlet Forest trees, or egg trees, which we even saw on the man page back in 2022. It eventually fully reveals itself, and we can click on it.
Wait a minute. I just realized these dots are they eggs? Is that what they were?
tree leading us back to Egg. Huh. It brought us back to where we started. But with that, it also concludes at least this branch of the new pages.
Circular, interesting.
Or does it? There is one more thing we could try.
What?
In Rain, Noelle mentioned a type of cat she saw that lowered her score. We've been able to get equivalents to every type of cat she listed in that text file in the Rare Cats page. So, if we got equivalents to all of those,
where's
then
the one that lowers
what
the
if that
score?
super secret type that she saw is also in there? If you were to just keep clicking on the cats on this page without leaving it, what if... Oh. What? So, when you click over 100 cats on this page, or when you edit the point values on it, the 101st one will be a flipped and slightly edited version of the image friend sprite, zooming towards you and playing the same noise heard in the chair jump scare back in 2022 before sending you back to the main page.
Okay, so that's where the whole thing, that's where everybody's been getting the whole thing with Friend being a cat. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now. Thank you, Molly. I hadn't heard that. I hadn't seen that from anybody else. I was very much operating in the dark there.
Furthermore, going back to Rare Cats, we can see that our points have been sent back to 0. And that's not even all. Internally, all of the cat animations are named Cat 001 and so on. And so, the friend sprite in this page internally is named Cat 009. Well,
Where's Cat?
I don't even know what to say.
Where was Cat 008? Because the previous list only went up to 7 or 8. Yeah, or 7. Yeah, never mind.
So like that face in the basement was just a spammed-in hallucination, guys, right? It being all caps was just for the funny, wasn't it? That was just a funny little goof that Toby did that meant nothing, right? Even that chair jump scare, that didn't mean anything. That was just spammed-in the whole time. I guess this is just another quirky little coincidence, and Friend still is just some spooky cryptic bullshit that totally isn't going to be important in any way in the new chapter.
Foreshadowing is an important narrative tool.
Okay, I'll stop rubbing it in. Our third Friend appearance. And not only that, but it seems to imply that Friend is a cat petter's thing, potentially meaning that, yes, maybe them being a cat is more on the table than one would think. And yet again, we have another secret thing in the game that seems to have ties to Noelle, because that's her thing. But let's just take a step back and really look at this branch of pages for a moment now that we've gone through them. We started on the Egg page, which then took us to Rain. These pages both involve cat petters and seem to further hint at its importance to not only Noelle, but to some of the more bizarre things we've seen in the Dark Worlds, such as the man behind the tree. From there, we then get a peek at what I imagine will be a minigame for Chapter 4, not too unlike the Rare Cats page, and then we're sent to the Windows pages.
Well, given actually thinking about it, wasn't there, like, Toby shared, like, a video clip on, like, Twitter or something, and it was literally just that, where it was Frisk walking around breaking dust piles, and in one dust pile there was a chest that when they opened it, they got 10 points. So... yeah, there's gonna be some, either it's gonna be like some sort of overarching thing or a mini game or something's going on with points that's never been seen before.
Showing off what I can only imagine are Chapter 4 assets, including the Depths Tree, as I'll call it. And then we had to uncover the Egg Tree, which took us all the way back to Egg. Obviously, for the most part, these are just teasers for Chapter 4. However, the increased emphasis on cat petters and the fact that fucking Friend appeared in the Rare Cats game, and may have been the type of cat that Noelle saw, in the same series that she also got the special egg, as in the ones the man gives us, that is striking to me here. In the way that we sort of go all the way back around from and then back to the Egg page, I don't know what exactly it suggests, but the way it circles back around feels like it's implying some specific dynamic between the two here, as in Friend and the man. In other words, the fact that both seem to have some connection to cat petters, and thus to Noelle, suggests to me that perhaps the man and Friend could be connected as well.
I mean, just the simple thing here. I've seen a lot of people, like, talking about the possibility that with that huge grin, Friend is, like, some sort of, like, homage or a reference to the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. And, I mean, like, going back, I mean, great, it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, or I've never actually read the books. the first time we see the Cheshire Cat, he's sitting in a tree. So there could be that connection there, even if it's just a little minuscule one.
Or maybe even one and the same? I don't know, but it certainly feels like there's something going on there, and that's my main takeaway. Chapter 4 may be our first real idea as to what the fuck these two actually are. And if that's the case, I am especially excited to see whatever potential payoff that'll have. God, and I didn't even mention the last page's name. The Poor Children? The header just being therapy? The fact that we see the egg tree as well makes it seem like this page has some connection to the man specifically, but what that is, I really have no idea. And then we also have the fact that the Windows pages have that "Aren't you forgetting something" header that the Damn Utena page had. Are those from the same character? Different ones? Who the hell is saying this? I don't know, but I hope we get to find that out at least.
I mean, again, we're seeing a lot of all caps text here. So, I mean, given, what we know about this game and the series, that generally points towards Gaster in some way. So is Gaster trying to communicate directly with us or something? Like, what's going on here?
And I guess we're also having the Tenno thing happen again, where people were certain that Friend being a cat was too obvious, and then, well, this is about as close as we're gonna get to actual evidence that that's what's going on with them.
Yeah.
Goodness. And then there's also just the matter of what the hell this chapter's Dark World is even supposed to be. At this point, it's safe to say that Chapter 4's Dark World will be the church, especially after seeing the trailer, but the continued Cat Pedders references add a whole new layer to this. In fact, I actually remembered something just now. One of the concept arts that Toby shared way back shows Susie playing on what looks like a handheld console, and we can even see Noelle just barely off screen in this screenshot here.
Oh god, I just saw her.
My shot in the dark guess? The Chapter 4 Dark World will primarily be the church, but maybe Noelle also brought her DS to church or something, which had Cat Pedders on it. And when that Dark World is made, we'll also end up getting Cat Pedders things in it as a result, and thus possibly more leads. Or...
I mean, it definitely could be. I mean, all the years when I was a kid and I'd be dragged to church with my mom and stuff like that, you'd always go to mass, and then, you'd go down to the basement, because in the basement, was, like a basketball gym with the stage, and it also had this little area, that had like a kitchen and a little sitting area that, the church would occasionally rent out. Like, I remember, so many times going to basketball practice as a kid at the church and stuff like that. But I remembered, like, they'd set up tables in the gym, and you'd go into the kitchen, buy some food after church, because usually mass started at 11, so by the end of it, it was around 12, so you'd go down, everybody would go downstairs, they'd have lunch. My mom would usually speak with, like, since my grandparents were also there, she'd, like, talk with them, and I would just run around with other kids playing in, like, either the coat room or underneath the stairs, or sometimes I'd be lucky and I'd remember to bring my DS and I'd be playing that there, like... So, I mean, just that concept, that brings back so many memories.
Even answers as to what the hell the man and or friend might be. That might even explain why the hell Friend appeared in the chair page if that's a Chapter 3 thing. Remember, Cat Pedders the RPG is under Azriel's bed in Chris's room. And if Friend really is tied to Cat Pedders, well, there you go. That would actually explain something about them, I guess.
Just thinking about that. If we're going to potentially get, like, a Cat Pedders reference in 2 chapters like this, are we potentially going to see whoever Friend ends up being in both Dark Worlds? And how's that going to work? Like, is it... I don't imagine it being the same thing with Lancer, where, Lancer turned to stone. But at the same time, I don't imagine it being the same Friend, since it's from 2 different versions of Cat Pedders. If you have, the RPG, which is presumably from, like, a home console, and then you have the handheld version of Cat Pedders. So, unless that somehow makes it so that Friend can transfer between the couple of Dark Worlds or appear in both Dark Worlds, like, is there going to be, like, multiple versions of Friend? Or, like, what's going to happen here?
I could be wrong, but that's as much as I'm going to be able to parse for the time being. In my opinion, I believe this branch is trying to imply that Friend is tied to Cat Pedders in some way. And to even say that is just... that's insane to me. That's not a thought I would have really had before this update. It's been a few weeks since the new stuff went live, and I still feel like I'm completely awestruck. Whether or not that's true, though, I think we can confirm this much. The Chapter 4 Dark World is going to be weird as hell, but with the use of image depth in more of its assets, and
Yeah,
the man
definitely.
and friend might be particularly relevant to it, along with cat petters in general. Wow. It's a lot of things at once, these pages.
And from everything I've seen, this is the smaller half of all the, like, the new pages. There's still the other half talking about all the other stuff.
I have no idea how this will all come together, honestly. But it's a good thing we won't have to wait much longer to find out, will we? That's about
Oh, God. Ugh.
all there is to say for these first 6 pages. This branch is the most blatant teaser for Chapter 4 we're going to get in this form, and with it, only has brought further questions rather than answers. I can't even begin to make sense of all this. It's so many vague and bizarre things that we just got in these pages alone that it definitely feels like it's meant to just be noise and chaotic to us almost. To the point that honestly, I don't have much more I want to say about it because I'd rather just wait and see for myself. It certainly got me more excited
waste the
than I
breath?
already was, but whatever the case, it'll all make sense very soon. Hopefully.
You can hopefully,
But of course, that was only just about half of what was added. We're not done yet. We still have that second branch of new pages. And if
Yep,
you thought
here we
everything just
go.
now was something, well, it's better if I just show you. It only gets weirder from here. To begin, if you want to get to the page we're looking for, there's 2 ways to do it. The short way is through the main sweepstakes page, as the What's Next link on the bottom will take us directly to it. However, I don't consider this to be the true start of this branch for the purposes of this video. The other way
Really?
to get to it starts with another new page we have to find. Let's start from the silence version of the sweepstakes page and go over to the bottom. As I mentioned earlier, the What's Next link here takes us to Ramb, and Ramb is the last of the older pages that had something actually added to it. That being that you can now click the top of the green room, the red area where the mouse is, and doing so will take you to Ramb. With the header, no one will shed a tear for him. All we see here are just a pair of doors. It's hard to
Shed a
tell exactly
tear
where
for
this is, but
him?
it's probably some sub-area in the Chapter 3 Dark World. And upon clicking on them, we have the screen cut to black as this happens. We then see text that reads, "If only you had the blank, your luck might have gone another way. No blank, no crystal."
Shadow
The
Mantle
blanks here
probably,
obviously
yeah.
being deliberately omitted parts of the sentence to cut out a certain word. But you can also click on the blank spaces, which plays a sound named ma.mp3. Now, hear me out here. My guess is that this is a quote from Sham after you finish the Chapter 3 Dark World but fail to get the Shadow Crystal in that chapter. And I believe that the MA in the sound that plays is mantle, as in Shadow Mantle, the thing that Sham mentioned you kind of need in order to defeat the Chapter 3 secret boss.
Which, again, I'm still holding out that I remember. So I heard this theory, and again, I am still holding out hope that the theory turns out to be true. That the Shadow Mantle is actually King's Cape from Chapter 1. Oh god, that would be so awesome.
So whatever the mantle is, this may be a sound that is associated with it. And I can't really think of what else this would be referring to otherwise. But keep that sound and the file name of it in your mind for a bit. It's gonna pop up again in just a moment. Because you see, that's
How?
still not all there is to this page. Between the opening of the doors and the text showing up, there's actually something in the darkness here. A black box that's moving around the screen that you can click on if you manage to catch it.
Oh, okay.
Doing so plays the alleged mantle sound again, and then changes the header name to "You Can Never Defeat Us, Let's Rumble." No idea who that is, but more importantly, it takes us to our next page and where the What's Next on the main sweepstakes site also takes us.
Interesting. Okay. So now I'm thinking, for something like that, why would the link on the main page kind of skip over those? Like, what's the reasoning? Does that make them less or more important? Because I could see them being like, like secondary things almost. Like, oh, you don't have to, through the main page, you don't have to see these. You can look for them if you want, but you don't have to. Or would that make them more important, given that you have to actually go, out of your way and, like, look for them?
Chapter 3.
Not applicable.
Most of the pages on this branch only have a header consisting of an ellipsis. This page only has the text, not applicable. But there is one thing you can do here. If you hold the left arrow key for a while on this page, a single additional word will scroll by from the right side. But. Not applicable, but what? What's not applicable? And what do you mean, but? See, the thing with this branch is, most of the pages on it aren't exactly accessible through links. It's really more guesswork than anything. Albeit rather simple guesswork. If there's a page for Chapter 3, well, naturally, what if we tried entering Chapter 4? Here, we're met with a black screen at first. Eventually, we can end up seeing a single red dot fade into view, which we'll put a pin on. We'll come back to this one later.
Jeez,
Besides, if there's a Chapter 4 page too, then what about Chapter 5? Now, what the hell is going on here, right? The header in this page simply reads, back. We see a very big 2, a much smaller 4, and a slightly bigger 5 after. But there's a wider gap between the 2 and 4, because when we highlight all of the text, we can see that there's actually a 1 and a 3. The 3 is just about as big as the 2, and the 1 is extremely small. And all of these numbers, aside from the 1, are clickable. Let's take a look. Clicking on the 2, we hear this.
From the weird root, yeah.
D.MP3, the song loop that plays in the weird ride of Chapter 2 when you're about to kill Berdly with Noelle. Clicking on the 3 takes us to MA.MP3, the mantle sound. Clicking on 4 takes us to the Chapter 4 page, which again we'll get to in a moment. And clicking on 5 takes us to this short loop named H.MP3. That's at least everything to do with this page alone. But there's a few more we haven't tried yet, have we?
Chapter 2 and
How
Chapter
about
1.
Chapter 2 and Chapter 1 while we're at it? And with these, you might start to notice something, especially with this page in mind. Chapter 1 simply gives us the text, not applicable, and with no but Easter egg in it. But Chapter 2? Applicable.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this. I'm going to see what Molly Stars has to say here, but I remember so many people have talked about and theorized that this is talking about which chapters have, like, weird roots and stuff like that. So, like, seemingly the weird root is set foot, or started off in Chapter 2, obviously. Which is why, potentially, the number 1 for Chapter 1 is just so tiny you can't even click on it, because, like, it doesn't really matter in the weird root. But in Chapter 3, not applicable, but if that is true, that would mean that while not directly affecting the weird root, it might have something that does apply to it in some way. I'm really wondering what that could potentially be.
So, this branch is kind of a bombshell, isn't it? Like, am I losing it, or is this not the biggest thing we've had revealed to us about the game's larger structure in, like, ever? The more I think about it, the more it's clear that this is a sort of guide to the game. Or specifically, a guide to doing something very weird and very specific in the game.
Something weird, huh? Wink, wink.
But the bizarre thing is, I'm not even entirely sure to what end. This page is showing chapters 1 through 5 in order, but assigning different sizes and either making them black or white. And you'll notice, the 2 in black, chapters 1 and 3, were deemed not applicable, whereas chapter 2 was deemed applicable. And Chapter 2 is the one we clicked on that played a song from the Weirdroot. And in this page, with Chapter 1 being the only one that doesn't have any sound associated, we know that one by comparison was a very linear one with barely any impactful choices in it, beyond the Card Kingdom either taking kindly to you at the end, or just wanting you to get the fuck out. So, here's what I think the sizes at least imply. The bigger a chapter number is on this page, the more severely you'll be able to diverge from the main story in that chapter. But as for the black and white labels, I think that the chapters that are labeled in white indicate the ones that will have a Weirdrout or a side B in them. Thus, these are the chapters that are applicable for that route possibly, if that's what those other pages are on about.
So what about chapter 3 then?
Which makes chapter 3 interesting, because it means that it technically won't have a Weirdroot, but it has something else in it that makes it just as important as chapter 2 in diverting from the intended story. And if I'm right about the chapter 3 sound, then it has a lot to do with getting the Shadow Mantle. This would also imply that chapters 4 and 5, while they don't say as such directly, will also have Weirdroots. But seeing as those two aren't as big in size as chapters 2 and 3 are, it implies the Weirdrout alone isn't what makes a chapter super likely to diverting the story, but rather, the sounds we hear or things we see associated with these chapters in this page are what make them important. And here's my take on that at least. D.MP3 plays right before we have that fight with Berdly and the Weirdroot, and after that point, if we use Snowgrave, that is when we are officially locked into the Weirdroot. That is the point of no return, that is the clear fork in the road, the diversion from the main story.
Wait, really? The point— I know you can have abandoned Weirdroots, but I didn't know it was that comparatively late.
This would explain why chapter 1 in this page doesn't lead to any sound, because there is no fork in the road or real point of diversion in that one. There's nothing that really impacts anything later in the game like that. Following this logic, chapter 3's point of diversion would have to do with acquiring or using the Shadow Mantle in some specific way, and to a similar severity to chapter 2's Weirdrout. Chapter 4's diversion is in the form of a Weirdrout, but it's not clear exactly what point that would be, at least not yet. And chapter 5's diversion is also in a Weirdrout and involves whatever happens when this shortly plays in the chapter. I believe that the chapter 5 page appears to be outlining how severe each chapter is to throwing the story off rails, and also just straight up telling us which of those chapters have a Weirdrout. Which is insane information to have if that's the case.
Which, the idea that you could that if this is true, that you could throw the story off without a Weirdroot is really intriguing. And honestly, I mean, I know I'm holding out hope here, but I really hope that points towards my whole theory of there being more than just 2 roots in the game. Granted, it doesn't look like it's going to be the same, like, multi-root structure I guessed, where you'd have, like, multiple Weirdroots where one was violent and one was just weird. But if there are multiple ways of getting the story and, like, basically derailing it. Oh, what are you planning, Toby? What have you done to us?
Especially because before this point, we have otherwise never had anything alluding to the Weirdrout outside of the game itself. I don't even know what to make of this, and this is the best I can do personally to try to understand this page. I could be wrong, but seeing this had me kind of shocked. I haven't even accounted for whatever the fuck the header means. What does back have to do with this? Going back to another chapter for something? Was I right about the ending being somewhere in the middle or some shit, or about the Shadow Mantle needing to be acquired in the future and then brought back with us to chapter 3 or something?
Oh,
Toby,
God, that's gonna be so confusing.
You can't just say that, can you? So, that's at least the best idea I have as to what this page is about. It clearly feels like it's trying to outline something about exactly how to play this game in a more specific way. And while I felt pretty sure before of something like this being the case, seeing it in front of me now is something else. I was already very excited for the new chapters just after seeing the first branch of pages we looked at. It is so nice to see this game become more real and to have some idea of how things like Friend will come into play. But this... I would have never expected more hints for Weirdrout shit in the sweepstakes potentially.
And again, it's the whole thing with, like, the flavor, like, for lack of a better word, flavor of the Weirdroot. Because again, I think it might have been actually Molly Stars in one of her earlier videos talking about it. I can't remember where at the moment, but I watched a video where somebody was comparing the Weirdroot and the whole culture of the Weirdroot early on very much to like old schoolyard rumors. And like before the internet, before theorizing communities became so entrenched as they were now, where like finding a glitch or a secret in the game was passed around via like just schoolyard rumors like during recess. Where at the beginning nobody thought that, you know, the Weirdroot was a thing, but then stuff started to be said. People started finding stuff. People then started on like Reddit and other things started saying, "Hey, there's a Weirdroot. There's like something really strange you can do," and it starts rolling out there. Like nothing was ever actually publicized about this. This is literally the first thing potentially ever that we've seen actually basically advertising that the Weirdroot actually is a thing. It is fascinating.
Nothing this concrete, at least. And still, we're not even done yet. But
wait, really? There's
we're
more?
Close.
Oh, okay.
12 out of 14.
Oh, okay.
Let's take a look at one more thing. The Chapter 4 page. Because this is where things get really strange, at least by my standards. Going back to this single red dot, clicking on it takes you to a new page, but in the Chapter 4 subdirectory. Chapter 4 Message. This page appears to be about the same as the previous one. Hell, the red dot even just takes you to the message page again. But highlighting all of the text here, we can see a lot of single black boxes, each of which we can click on. Every one of these boxes will take us to one of two sound files, e.mp3 and m.mp3. They appear to be a single one, but split into these two halves. Although, trying to put the two together unedited, there is a noticeable gap, so they're not perfectly seamless with each other unless you remove that gap yourself. Or maybe there's something in the middle there that got cut out? Are they meant to spell out M or EM together? I'm not entirely sure what these sounds could be about, outside of they'll probably play somewhere in Chapter 4.
I mean, it could be just a really messed up laugh, like, like, actually, that sounds like a messed up Mr. Krabs there.
But if my theory about the sounds in Chapter 5 referring to points of diversion in the story is true, maybe this is where Chapter 4's diversion could occur, is whenever this sound plays. But what we're looking for in this page isn't so much to do with the sounds themselves. It's more so the arrangement of these boxes and exactly where the E and M sounds are put in that arrangement. Because these boxes are arranged in the same way that a keyboard, specifically a QWERTY one, is. And specifically, only the keys with letters on them. And looking for all of the spaces that lead to the m.mp3 sound, you can use those spaces and correspond those to specific letters on your keyboard, which gives you these following letters, going from left to right, top to bottom. It looks like gibberish at first, but we can rearrange these letters into thank you, which happens to be the URL of our next, and in fact, final new page of the sweepstakes up.
Okay. This is literally the first I'm hearing of this. Why are not more people talking about this?
Chapter 4, Thank You. If you came across this page at the time it initially went live, you would be met with two fields to enter text in, and a button to click below them. The header, notably, reads, "How long did it take her to smile?" Just clicking on the button itself, or entering random text into either of the fields, will meet you with the text, Unknown Contact. Now, I don't really know how people figured this out outside of just pure guesswork, because the fields themselves are very small width, and it took a bit for even me to fish out the solution to this. But the topmost field here is actually looking for an email address. Adding an email here, and then not filling out the second field, but clicking the button, will give you, "She never smiled?" However, if you fill out the second field with any text at all, and then click the button, the fields and button will vanish, and you will be met with only text that reads, "Thank you." This is what the page consisted of for the first 12 hours of its release. After these 12 hours, on May 9th, the page would then change to only have this thank you text. It turns out there was a timed window to submit email addresses and potentially answers to the question the header posed. How long did it take her to smile? And that window had closed.
Oh god, that's what this page. I mean, what was it? I remember Seeks while they were recording their newest Gardenphone video. Seeks literally, or not Seeks. Somebody literally got the response emails to this while they were recording. Ah.
I was able to submit something within those 12 hours, thankfully. And it wouldn't be much longer before... Around 9 PM EST that same day, people on the Undertale Deltarune newsletter mailing list who had sent a submission through the thank you page would receive a no-subject email from Toby. If you had answered the second field in that page with no numbers in it, your email would be completely blank. But if you answered with any numbers in it, the email would read, "You answered number in some units of time." Some people got that number in seconds, some people answered in days, some in minutes, some in years, and some also answered in years, but then the email for some reason converted it to seconds.
Okay.
At the bottom of all of these emails, though, one could tell the formatting was the same of that of an Undertale Deltarune newsletter, except now reading, "You're getting this email because you..." for the mailing list. Since writing this, there has been no correct answer found or confirmed, or unique email content separate from this. It's believed that the answers that were being looked for were responses to the question that this header posed. However, again, we do not know if there was a correct answer to this, and I personally don't believe there is one because I feel pretty damn sure that if there were, we would know by now. And if there was one and no one guessed it, then it makes no sense to have closed the window for submissions if no one guessed the right answer anyway.
You know, how much you want to bet that somebody actually did, but through some, unforeseen circumstances, they've just never shared it with anybody. I mean, granted, I imagine it's a very small chance of that happening, but, there is the chance.
You'd think you would just keep it open until someone got it right, no? Besides, I have no idea what the answer to this question could be. Who is her in this case, or she? How would we know how long it really took this person to smile?
And
is
why
this
is
in
it
reference
important
to a
that they
specific
did
character,
smile?
or something more meta, like perhaps how long the Muse_smile sound is?
I mean, or also, well, maybe potentially, maybe it's talking about friend. I mean, every picture we've seen of them so far, fake smile. How long did it take them to actually get the smile in the first place? That might be something we learn in the chapter.
I really doubt this was built with the correct answer in mind. The only way I could see this changing my mind is if perhaps we haven't seen the full results of this yet, and maybe later on we'll actually get to see what the correct answer was. But not to mention, every submission from an email to this would only ever take the first answer you gave. Even if it allowed you to submit multiple on your end, it only stored the first one. And so, a lot of people only second-guessed or got better answers after they had already used their one real attempt at submitting. Which, if anything, between this and the whole thank you name assigned to it, this feels more like a survey to me. It doesn't say if you were right or wrong, it just says, this is the answer you gave. Maybe the only wrong answer was whatever led to you getting a blank email? I don't know. Genuinely, in all my time discussing this game, this is the first time I feel entirely speechless. It kind of speaks for itself, even if it barely wants to say anything yet. Doing some more digging into it, apparently, people believed they found an internal link to the page where you could sign up for this very mailing list in one of the Fangamer fulfillment pages. For instance, this is what the one for the Undertale Deltarune newsletter list looks like, and this is the one that was allegedly for this blank mailing list. People cited the all caps and what is it as being proof that this was it, but I tried signing up for this one using the same email that I submitted to the thank you page with, and it signed me up for it. Which shouldn't have happened, to be clear, because again, I already had made a submission. It should have had a message saying, hey dumbass, you're already signed up for this one, if it were the same as the one for thank you. Not to mention, I have not been able to find any verifiable proof that this link is actually tied to the thank you page.
Yeah, for all we know, Molly just signed up for a virus newsletter, who knows?
The only thing I could find is that all the submissions for thank you were being sent to this link. I think it's safe to say, for the record, that looking internally for info about this mailing list won't lead us anywhere productive. And besides, chances are, it's more likely this is a sub-tier of the newsletter mailing list, not necessarily a completely unique one altogether, judging from the formatting and such. Which kind of leaves us in the dark about this one. At least, it's safe to say that I don't think it's tied to this specific mailing list, which means that it's not confirmed to be limited to a one-time email notif. But that only leaves even more up in the air, and I guess that's kind of the intention anyway. I have no idea what the hell this email stuff for Chapter 4 is all about, and it's kind of insane how esoterically done this specific teaser is. It makes me wonder if perhaps we'll get some really deep shit about the larger picture of the game, more than we even had thought initially. If the first branch we looked at had me excited, and the pages just before this had me baffled and kind of terrified, I'm just at a loss with this one. I remember the beginning of the sweepstakes in 2022 and just being happy to even consider the idea of anything close to a Deltarune ARG. And now, I mean, sure, code still says that it's not an ARG exactly, but I had to do something to get here that absolutely feels like something an ARG would warrant doing. And with actual email shenanigans getting involved, it makes me feel like we know even less about what is in store for these chapters, and how Toby plans to release and share them, than we ever could have imagined.
Again, what did I say at the beginning of this video? The fact that, seemingly, Chapters 3 is going to be very gimmicky, potentially very silly or something. So the idea that Chapter 4 might be a lot more serious. I mean, especially given that it's going to be in a church, talking about, like, religion and stuff like that. I've been on the internet for a long time, and I've seen that people generally kind of get touchy when you start talking about that kind of stuff, especially if you talk about it in ways they don't agree with.
Or maybe I'm looking too deep into it, as usual. I'm not entirely sure. Here I was, worried that getting all these peeks into the game so close to release would perhaps ruin some of the hype for me, make me expect or look forward to too many things and know too much going in. But every time I've thought that about this game, whether it's now or whether it was while making the device theory, there's always just that one thing that proves to me that I could not be any more wrong. I genuinely don't know what this email or what thank you means. It could be referring to anyone and anything. I fully cannot imagine what role this plays in Chapter 4, let alone the game overall. And it feels so good to say that.
God, at this point, if like something happened and Deltarune didn't release on the 4th, or the 5th, or at all, like it was delayed or something, I very much believe we'd have, like, legitimately, I think we'd have, like, mass reportings of spontaneous human combustion. At this point, I have the sinking feeling that people would literally just burst into flame.
But, for the time being, this seems to be the end of the road for us. I hope there's more to whatever this email thing was about. It feels like there should be, or that it's at least setting up for something even bigger. It's hard to imagine that that's all there was to this. But even if it is, I know one thing is true. We're gonna get to see all of this answered in not even a week from now. And it's going to be very, very, very interesting.
Oh, that's the end of the video. Okay. Is there anything else, or...?
And with that, I think that's a good point to wrap things up. That was the Silence update to the Spamton Sweepstakes. After looking at everything new to the site, we've seen glimpses into a chapter that previously completely eluded most of the fandom in terms of its role in the story, now proving itself to be more important than one would have believed at first. Potential implications that Friend is, like most things secretive, tied to Noelle and to cat pedders in some way, and thus to the man behind the tree. An outline of what may very well be which chapters will have a weird route and how much we can throw things off rails in each one, with the further implication that the Shadow Mantle will be even more of a game changer than we thought initially. And finally, A closed window for a mailing list that we don't even know the full implications for. At least, not yet.
Yeah.
That is the gist of all 14 of the new hidden pages added to Deltarune.com. I hope you enjoyed my coverage of it, and my occasional rambling and theorizing. There is so much that these pages left me to think about already, and it's only made me even more excited for the new chapters than anything. This feels a lot shorter than what I'm used to, and also a bit more haphazard and not as carefully put together, but given—
Believe me, when it comes to the length, I am not complaining. I have to render this.
the time-sensitive nature of this one, I kind of had no other option. Not to mention, this still ended up pretty hefty anyway for just covering a bunch of damn web pages. Can you imagine this sharing the same video as me just covering the game? Good lord, I did it once, I don't want to do it again. One of the only times that crunch is worth it, I guess. Not really, actually, don't be like me, please. Check in on your people, don't go into tunnel vision like I tend to. It's not all that fun. Socializing is more important, I'm working on that too. I'd like to apologize for how quiet this channel's been since the update video, outside of a few streams I did. This first half of the year has consisted of a lot of work on my part, I just can't really show any of it off for reasons I went over in that update video if you haven't seen it. I wanted to up the output as well earlier in the year, but some of my ideas just did the thing of falling through or being shelved due to either scope issues or simply just losing interest in it because Deltarune coming soon anyway, and also just getting derailed by a lot of personal and emotional things that needed my attention, and, you know, the whole going away for 2 weeks for FWA and to hang out with one of my partners again thing. I kind of have been trying to save my energy for specifically this time of year because I know it's gonna be a big thing for me and I don't want to be burnt out or anything for that. Hopefully, with the release of Deltarune now being imminent, I can finally dig into it and get more things done. I knew the release of it would be the one thing that would throw a wrench in my initial plans for the year, and it most certainly did. But hey, for that, I can finally let loose a bit. I'm hoping that with the second half of the year coming up, it'll be a bit more payoff to make up for all the more quiet work I've been doing in this first half. I even got a script for another video done earlier this year, but it was just too big to realistically do before Deltarune would come out, so—
I'm sorry, I'm just— dysfunctional interaction, rips for Richard Nixon sources? What?
It's all kinda hinging on that, really. But thank you all for watching up to this point, and again, I hope you enjoyed it. We hit over 20,000 subscribers since a little over a month ago, and I still am kind of in awe about that. Like, holy shit, that's like a fifth of the way to a silver play button. That's also twice the amount of people that know me compared to when I only had 2 parts of the device theory out. That's insane. I want to think of something special for 20k as well, like I did for 10k, but I haven't quite decided yet, or rather I haven't really had the time to. AMA is off the table though, I already did that last time. I don't know, I guess leave your thoughts about that in the comments if you think there's anything special I could do for that. But aside, I cannot appreciate the support and patience from you all enough. To those on my Patreon as well, that goes tenfold for y'all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm really proud of the community that's been forming around my stuff, especially with how I haven't really put that much out still, it feels. It makes me feel very hopeful for where things are headed with this channel, especially with Deltarune coming so soon. If you enjoyed watching this, and or you're new here, feel free to drop a like, and if you want to stick around for especially when I get to cover the new chapters once they're out, please do subscribe so you can stay tuned for that, because after I'm done playing them on my own, I am going straight to work on that. It'll be a long video or two for sure. And while you're at it, if this is your first video of mine, whether that be because this one is actually shorter, or you just hadn't heard of me before, if you want some other Deltarune things to hold you over with while we wait these final days out before its release, I do have the Device Theory series that you can take a look at. It is 10 hours though, but don't worry, Part 3 has summaries of each section at the end of them if you just want a quick version of those.
Again, like, I just— the exponential growth in length along these 3. Oh god, never again.
Also, I'm just autistic if you couldn't tell, so I have a knack for not shutting up about my interests. Okay? Or, if you've watched my videos a lot already— yeah, I know how you all work, you've probably rewatched it like several times by now. What's another one, right? Anyway, if you had any specific thoughts, anything you liked, anything I missed, anything that really just so pissed you off, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And if you want to go the extra mile with supporting me, I have a Patreon you can go to for just that. Depending on the tier, you can get anywhere from just sneak peeks and general updates about my videos, to more personal things I'm working on in the free time. I don't want to hold you all for much longer, as this is intended to be quite the shorter video compared to what I usually do. So, that's about all I have to say there. Getting to this point and having the following I do now genuinely means so much to me, and I can't wait to make even more things for you all that will hopefully feel worth your time and attention. I'll probably be quite offline once the new chapters are out, but once I'm ready, I am not going to be stopping until I get something out for you all unless it kills me. Not to mention,
Please don't actually
I have
die.
quite a few other fun things I'll be probably a part of in that process as well. June is looking like another packed month, but a very, very fun one at that. So, I suppose there's not much more to say. Thank you again for watching, and if you care about spoilers, you probably want to keep your phone away from you on June 4th. Order some nice food or something, get cozy, and just play the game at your own pace.
Oh, God. Again, absolutely nuts. It is honestly, like, again, that one page with the numbers. Like, what is going on with the Weirdroot? Like, there have been so many times in this game's history where we've been kind of like, the status quo has been, like, shattered. Where, in the initial chapter, it was pretty fun. But, everybody thought, oh, it's just going to be, very linear. Your choices don't matter. That's the whole tagline of the game. Then in Chapter 2, the Weirdroot was discovered, and that shattered everybody's understanding of what was going on and stuff like that. And it's been like that with very few and very small updates since, until this week. Chapters 3 and 4 are going to be released at the time of recording in 3 days. And I have a feeling we're going to be having another massive shakeup like we did with Chapter 2. Oh, God, I just have no idea what that is. No, that's even going to be, though. Oh, God. But yeah, that's definitely going to be it for now. So, yeah, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.